A private jet touches down on a small Caribbean runway. No commercial terminals, no baggage chaos, just quiet efficiency. The passengers step off, disappear into black SUVs, and within minutes they are gone from public view. No paparazzi, no transaction records you can easily trace, no one tweeting about it in real time. Just another routine trip inside a world where money doesn't just buy luxury, it buys silence. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. The Epstein case wasn't just a criminal scandal, it was also a financial blueprint, a rare glimpse into how extreme wealth builds protection systems that operate quietly, legally, and often invisibly. And when investigators began pulling on threads connected to Epstein, they weren't just uncovering people, they were uncovering infrastructure. Financial, legal, and reputational infrastructure designed to make power difficult to challenge. And that matters right now, because wealth concentration is rising globally. The number of billionaires keeps growing. The gap between elite financial networks and public transparency keeps widening. Epstein became controversial because of the crimes he was accused and charged for. But the financial machinery surrounding him raises a bigger question. How does money create layers of opacity that most people never even realize exist? To understand that, you have to step away from headlines and into systems. Because systems don't scream, they hum quietly in the background. Jeffrey Epstein built his reputation as a financial operator with connections to ultra-wealthy clients. Unlike traditional hedge fund managers, he operated in a strange gray area. His firm didn't manage large public portfolios. It catered to extremely rich individuals, the kind of clients who care less about market performance and more about privacy, tax efficiency, and asset protection. This is where elite finance starts to look very different from everyday finance. When most people invest, they open brokerage accounts, buy mutual funds, or maybe hire a financial advisor. Billionaires often operate through something called family offices. These are private financial firms built to manage one family's wealth. And they don't just invest money, they build shields around it. Family offices coordinate lawyers, accountants, tax strategists, private banks, and sometimes political consultants. They structure assets across multiple countries. They create layered ownership structures. And they do this legally, using differences in global tax and disclosure laws. Epstein's world intersected heavily with this ecosystem. Court records, public reporting, and financial investigations revealed that his operations involved complex company structures, offshore jurisdictions, and private financial arrangements that made tracking money extremely difficult. Here's where the system gets interesting. Imagine you own an asset. Simple enough. Now imagine that asset is owned by a company. That company is owned by a trust. That trust is registered in another country, and that trust is controlled by a legal entity managed by a law firm in yet another jurisdiction. Suddenly, the asset still exists, the wealth still exists, but ownership becomes a maze. This isn't rare at the highest levels of wealth, it's standard. Offshore financial centers, like the British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, and Panama, exist partly because they offer legal frameworks that emphasize confidentiality. These places are not inherently illegal. Major corporations and investment funds use them, but they also create environments where tracing financial relationships becomes extremely complicated. In Epstein-related financial reviews, investigators found layers of shell companies connected to property holdings, aircraft ownership, and financial transfers. Again, this doesn't automatically imply criminal behavior, but it highlights how elite wealth is often structured to minimize transparency. And transparency is expensive, not financially, politically, socially, legally. Now let's talk about another pillar of this protection system: reputation management. In elite finance, reputation is not just personal, it's economic. A damaged reputation can destroy investment access, partnership opportunities, and political influence. So the ultra-wealthy invest heavily in what you could call the elite billionaire protection industry. This industry includes crisis PR firms that specialize in controlling media narratives, legal teams that negotiate settlements before cases reach public courtrooms, private investigators who monitor potential threats, and insurance products that protect against reputational risk. Yes, reputation insurance exists, and it's growing. When controversies involving high net worth individuals, legal settlements often become financial calculations. Companies and individuals weigh the cost of prolonged legal battles against private settlements. Non-disclosure agreements frequently become part of these settlements, legally preventing public discussion of details. NDAs are widely used across corporate America. They protect trade secrets, intellectual property, and executive negotiations. But they also create what economists sometimes call silence markets, situations where information is technically known by participants but legally restricted from public discussion. Several civil cases connected to Epstein involved settlements that included confidentiality agreements. This is not unusual in high-value litigation, but when repeated across multiple cases, it creates a pattern where public understanding remains fragmented. Now, step back and notice the irony. Financial markets thrive on transparency. Investors want disclosure. Regulators push for reporting standards. Yet at the highest wealth levels, privacy becomes a premium service, and privacy sells extremely well. Private banks are another piece of this world. Unlike retail banks, private banks offer customized wealth management for clients with tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. These institutions design cross-border tax strategies, manage global investment vehicles, and coordinate asset transfers through multi-layer legal structures. According to industry estimates, global private banking manages over $20 trillion in assets. That is roughly equivalent to the GDP of the United States, and much of it operates through discretionary management models where public reporting is limited. Epstein reportedly maintained relationships with private financial institutions and structured property and asset ownership through multiple entities. Again, the pattern wasn't unique, it was typical of how ultra-high net worth wealth is organized. Now, the timeline becomes important. In 2008, Epstein received a controversial plea deal in Florida. The legal outcome raised questions about prosecutorial decisions, influence networks, and legal negotiation power. Financially, cases like this highlight how legal strategy becomes part of wealth management. Elite legal defense is not just about courtroom performance, it involves negotiation leverage, jurisdiction selection, and settlement structuring. Then, in 2019, federal charges were filed again. This time, investigations expanded into financial transactions, asset flows, and network connections. As scrutiny increased, public attention shifted from one individual to the broader ecosystem surrounding him. And ecosystems are harder to confront than individuals. Removing one figure rarely dismantles the infrastructure. There's also a subtle economic principle at work here called network value. The more connected someone becomes inside elite financial and social circles, the more valuable those connections become. Access to exclusive investment deals, political introductions, and private capital opportunities creates feedback loops where influence compounds over time. In many elite circles, social relationships overlap with financial opportunities. Private events, charity boards, exclusive clubs, and investment partnerships often blend together. This blending doesn't necessarily break laws, but it creates environments where accountability becomes socially complicated. Now let's talk about the uncomfortable math behind extreme wealth protection. The ultra-rich spend significant portions of their wealth not just growing assets, but defending them.
Legal retainers, tax structuring, political lobbying, security, and reputation management can cost millions annually. For most people, that sounds excessive, but when someone controls billions, spending a few million to reduce risk becomes mathematically rational. Risk management at the billionaire level looks less like insurance policies and more like building layered fortresses. And sometimes those fortresses become so complex that even regulators struggle to fully map them. Financial investigations into offshore wealth frequently require cooperation across multiple governments, each with different disclosure laws, legal standards, and political priorities. That fragmentation creates delays, and delay is powerful, because financial investigations often take years. Public attention cycles last weeks. There's also a market incentive problem. Many jurisdictions compete to attract wealthy clients by offering privacy protections. Financial secrecy becomes an economic product. Countries generate revenue by hosting trust services, offshore company registrations, and asset management infrastructure. This creates a strange global dynamic. Governments publicly support financial transparency while simultaneously benefiting from secrecy-driven capital flows.
The Epstein case exposed fragments of this global contradiction, not by creating it, but by making it visible. Now let's contrast public perception with operational reality. Popular narratives often portray billionaires as either visionary heroes or cartoon villains. Real financial power is far less dramatic and far more procedural. It's built through contracts, tax codes, cross-border regulations, and relationship management. Power in this world rarely announces itself. It organizes itself. And that organization can create accountability gaps, not because laws don't exist, but because enforcement becomes complex when wealth crosses legal, geographic, and political boundaries simultaneously. There's also the psychology factor. Wealth concentration often generates social insulation. When individuals operate primarily inside elite networks, feedback loops narrow. Criticism becomes filtered. Risk warnings get softened. Decision-making environments become echo chambers of success narratives. History shows this repeatedly across financial scandals. From corporate fraud cases to banking collapses, insulation often precedes exposure. The Epstein financial ecosystem demonstrated how insulation can extend beyond business into social and legal protection structures. And when such systems operate successfully for long periods, they create what economists call moral hazard. Situations where individuals take greater risks because they believe consequences will be limited or delayed. The broader implication isn't about one case, it's about system design. Modern global finance enables unprecedented wealth accumulation, but the same tools that create efficiency, cross-border investment, and tax optimization can also reduce transparency and complicate accountability.
Regulators worldwide have introduced reporting laws, anti-money laundering frameworks, and beneficial ownership disclosures to address these risks. Some progress has been made, but enforcement still lags behind financial innovation. Wealth structuring evolves faster than regulation, and that gap is where many controversies grow. Today, family offices manage trillions. Private equity controls increasing portions of global assets. Offshore jurisdictions remain active hubs for asset structuring. The financial architecture revealed indirectly through the Epstein case is not disappearing, it is expanding. Which leads to a quiet but important question. If extreme wealth can build multi-layer protection systems across legal, financial, and reputational domains, how do democratic societies maintain transparency without discouraging legitimate investment and privacy rights? There is no simple answer. Every solution creates trade-offs. More transparency can increase regulatory oversight, but may reduce financial competitiveness. More privacy protects legitimate wealth management, but can also shield misconduct. And that tension sits at the center of modern global capitalism. The Epstein case forced public attention toward a world that usually operates behind legal paperwork and private boardrooms. It showed that financial power is rarely just about money. It is about networks, systems, and structures designed to preserve influence over long periods. The planes, the properties, the shell companies, the settlements, the advisors, none of them operate independently. They form ecosystems, and ecosystems are resilient. So the next time headlines focus on a single powerful individual falling, it may be worth asking a quieter question. Was the story about a person or about a system that continues running long after individual names disappear from the news?